Welcome to SkedLIVE. It is Thursday, March 17th. I'm Yanis Khamsi, and here's what's making news now. There are a lot of cops on campus today. Here are SkedLine reporters Rachel Clemens and Laura O'Callahan to tell you why.
We are here at Humber College where the Criminal Justice Career Fair is taking place. There are 16 different organizations here that students can connect with. Let's take a closer look.
Today is really about bridging the gap. I think that's so important that a lot of the time students, once they graduate, they're so unsure of the resources available to them. And in creating events like this, we reach out to recruiters and people who are professionals in the field and just getting that one-on-one experience where students can approach people that they're interested in working with later on in life and asking them about, I guess, what they would like to do is just invaluable.
We're both first year.
Police foundations, yeah. I specifically came to see if there are CBSA representatives, but unfortunately they are not. So I'm just shopping around. I'll be going to the CBSA, Border and Immigration Services.
I got to drop off a couple resumes. A couple people said, like they'll be in contact, so it's always good and learn some new things. So I'm hoping to hopefully find a job in my field and see what's out there and what everyone's having to offer.
If you're interested about criminal justice or related affairs, be sure to come down to the L building until 3 p.m. today. Rachel Clemens, skedline.com.
Thanks, Rachel. Several high-ranking Quebec politicians have been arrested on corruption charges. Former Quebec Deputy Minister Nathalie Normando faces charges of corruption, fraud, conspiracy, and breach of trust in connection with political financing. A former political aide to ex-PQ leader Pauline Marois and former mayor of Gaspé François Rouzy were also charged. A judge has granted a terminally ill Toronto man the right to end his life with a doctor's help. An 80-year-old man who can only be identified as AB, diagnosed with lymphoma in 2012, will be the first doctor-assisted suicide in Ontario's history. A judge has ruled that the doctor's involvement will remain anonymous. Doctor-assisted suicides are now possible following a Supreme Court ruling in 2015. Toronto Star publisher John Cruikshank has announced he is stepping down. Cruikshank has been the Star's publisher since 2009. Cruikshank says the time has come to turn the job over to someone with a more modern skill set. The Star has shifted towards digital media in recent years in response to the decline of newspapers. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is being hailed as a feminist hero. Trudeau is speaking to the UN about gender equality and the He for She movement today. UN Women Executive Director Phumzile Mlambo Nguka said Trudeau was a leader in global feminism as she pinned him with a lapel for women's rights. Now over to Raven with a look at today's weather.
Happy St. Patrick's Day. We will begin our celebrations with a mix of sun and clouds. It feels like spring is approaching as we'll reach a high of 11 and a low of 6. Get your umbrellas and raincoats ready because there's a 70% chance of showers and thunderstorms this afternoon. By tonight, we'll reach a low of 1. This is Raven Ben-Waite for skedline.com. Now let's go to Anthony with the 5-day forecast.
Thanks, Raven, and happy St. Patrick's Day. I'm Anthony Ferreira, and this is your 5-day weather forecast. Raven was spot on earlier, so you're going to want to bring in your umbrellas and your raincoats. We'll be expecting a thunderstorm later on, but we'll have a high of 11 and a low of +1. And on Friday, the rain should carry over into the morning, but things should clear up in the afternoon. We have a high of 4 and a low of -9. And on Saturday, it's going to be sunny. We have a high of +2 and a low of -3. And on the last day of the March break, it's going to be sunny with some clouds. We'll have a high of 3 and a low of -5. And heading into the work week, we're going to be expecting some rain and some snow. It will be a high of 5 and a low of -8. I'm Anthony Ferreira. That's your 5-day weather forecast. Now let's go back to Yanis.
Thanks, Raven and Anthony. Earlier, Anthony took a walk around Lakeshore to see how residents and students are celebrating St. Patrick's Day.
Today's St. Patrick's Day. Grab your oversized leprechaun hats and get ready for some green beer and celebrations. There are tons of events taking place in Toronto. Let's see how people will be celebrating. So how are you celebrating St. Patrick's Day?
First call, last call, every time.
And what's going on tonight at the refinery?
Tonight we've got our DJ G-Rex. He'll be spinning all awesome stuff, a lot of Irish tunes, a lot of remixes, stuff like that.
And what's your specialty drink for this day?
Specialty drink for St. Patrick's Day, I like doing baby Guinness shots. I guess that'd be mine.
I just moved here from Halifax, so this is the first time I'll be celebrating St. Paddy's Day in Toronto. I can't wait.
I'm also from Halifax, and this will be my first St. Patrick's Day in Toronto. And I'm going to go to Grace O'Malley's, which is like a famous East Coast bar here, and have a few beer.
I'm going to go bar hopping and get some drinks with my friends, hang out.
And what's your specialty St. Patrick's Day drink?
Drink? Just beer. All types of beer.
You drink any green beer?
Definitely. I'm going to drink some Bone Shaker, some IPAs, strong beers.
Many Toronto bars, restaurants, and other venues will be celebrating St. Patrick's Day. Some of these include the Amsterdam Brewhouse, Mill Street Brewery, Pauseway, which is for kids and dogs, the Gladstone Hotel, Firefly Pub, the Poorhouse, and of course, the Refinery. I'm Anthony Ferreira, skedline.com.
Thanks, Anthony. Humans of New York creator Brandon Stanton's open letter to Donald Trump has gone viral. On March 14th, Stanton called out Trump for inciting violence and racism at his rallies and on social media. Stanton's Facebook post has been shared 2 million times, and many are calling it the most shared Facebook post in history. Stanton isn't the only one worried. The Economic Intelligence Unit put Trump in their top 10 global risks. Trump was placed alongside jihadi terrorism and the prospect of a new Cold War with Russia. The report says Trump's presidency could disrupt the global economy. The report also says a Trump presidency could start a trade war, hurt relations with Mexico, and boost terrorism recruits in the Middle East. President Obama has nominated veteran appeals judge Merrick Garland to be the next U.S. Supreme Court justice. This comes after the death of Justice Antonin Scalia. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell does not approve of Garland. Figures in the Republican Party have asked that President Obama leave the task of nominating a Supreme Court justice to his successor. SeaWorld will no longer breed orcas. SeaWorld says the current generation of orca whales will be the last. This comes after a wave of protests and boycott sparked by the 2013 documentary Blackfish, which exposed the conditions in which orcas bred, lived, and died. SeaWorld has called Blackfish misleading and inaccurate. And now let's check in with Eric to see what's happening in the world of sports.
Thanks, Yanis. Toronto will host the 2017 Invictus Games. The event will have injured servicemen and women from around the world compete in adapted athletic events. The Games were created by Prince Harry after he attended the Warrior Games, a similar event in the United States. The Wounded Warriors and Prince Harry will come to Toronto in September. Another Russian athlete has been suspended for a doping violation. Swimmer Yulia Efimova faces a possible lifetime ban from international competition. Efimova won a bronze medal at the 2012 London Olympics and holds 4 world championship titles. The news comes just after Russian tennis star Maria Sharapova tested positive for meldonium. In basketball news, March Madness starts today. The big dance features 64 Division I teams from around the United States. This year, there are 25 Canadian players in the tournament, including some of the biggest names in college hoops. Jamal Murray is projected to be a high first-round draft pick in the NBA this year, and is the highest-scoring freshman for the 4-seed Kentucky Wildcats. On the women's side, Kia Nurse is hoping to help continue the dominant tradition of the University of Connecticut's basketball program after helping the team win the tournament last year. In lacrosse action, the 5th Creators Cup is happening tomorrow between the Durham Turf Dogs and the Ohsweken Demons at the GM Center in Oshawa. The Demons are looking for their 2nd Creators Cup win after losing in the final for the past 2 years. This is the first championship appearance for the Turf Dogs. The Leafs had the night off yesterday, but a few Canadian teams saw action in the NHL last night. The Montreal Canadiens secured 2 points in an overtime win in Buffalo last night. Connor McDavid got 2 assists to help the Edmonton Oilers beat the St. Louis Blues 6-4, and the Vancouver Canucks fell to the Colorado Avalanche 3-1. Henrik Sedin scored the lone goal for the Canucks. The Winnipeg Jets got crushed by the Calgary Flames after they went down 3-0 in the first period. Like the Leafs, the Raptors had the night off, but their division rivals, the New York Knicks, got absolutely smashed by nearly 40 points by Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors. Around the NBA, the Atlanta Hawks knocked off the Detroit Pistons by 2 buckets. The LA Clippers secured their 43rd regular season win, 122-106 over the Houston Rockets. And the Minnesota Timberwolves took another step to move out of the basement of the Northwestern Division with a 114-108 win over the Memphis Grizzlies. Here at Humber, both the men's and women's basketball teams have qualified for the CCAA National Championships. The men's team is in Fort McMurray, Alberta to play their first game against the Cumberland Chargers today at 4 p.m. And the women's team, after an undefeated season, are in Windsor and are looking to take on the St. Mary's Lightning today at 3. With the 2016 Olympics coming up, Brazil finally passed anti-doping legislation that brought the host country within the rules of the World Anti-Doping Authority. The legislation creates a tribunal for doping cases across all sports. Until now, state and national courts heard anti-doping cases. That's all for your sports news. Have a safe and happy St. Patrick's Day. I'm Eric McLaren, Slangaful.
Thanks, Eric. Protests continue in Brazil as the president swears in her predecessor as chief of staff. Riot police pepper sprayed thousands of protesters in Brasilia outside the presidential palace and the Congress building. The protesters are demanding President Dilma Rousseff's resignation and Chief of Staff Lula's arrest. Kurdish militants have claimed responsibility for the suicide bombing in Ankara that killed 37 people this week. The Kurdistan Freedom Hawks, also known as the TAK, warned of further attacks. The group says they carried out Sunday's bombing and vowed further strikes to avenge military operations in the largely Kurdish southeast. Earlier today, U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry made a statement regarding ISIS. Let's take a listen.
My purpose in appearing before you today is to assert that in my judgment, Daesh is responsible for genocide against groups in areas under its control, including Yazidis, Christians, and Shia Muslims. Daesh is genocidal by self-proclamation, by ideology, and by actions, in what it says, what it believes, and
This announcement comes in response to mounting global pressure to declare the acts against Christians and other religious minorities as genocide. Kerry did not say how such a declaration would affect U.S. involvement in other areas controlled by ISIS. And that's all for News Now. For all of our coverage, check out skedline.com. I'm Yanis Khamsi, and thank you for stopping by.